Do you think they have the term bro in space? Or has the galaxy evolved well beyond that word and now openly uses the word Krogan, which means the same thing? Because Wrex always gave me bro energy. A character that only joins us for one full game is an instant favorite for so many players around the Mass Effect community. I'd imagine part of that is because he's such a beast in the first game, but the reason audiences love Wrex has to be more than that. Today, we look at Wrex's story and character in hopes of analyzing how it was written, the conflict that Wrex has across the 3 games, and how his transformation occurs through said conflict. We'll try to understand his portrayal in Mass Effect, and if he truly is one of the best companions to exist in the games. Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Thank you all for voting for Wrex to be the next Mass Effect character analysis. A new poll has appeared where you can vote for your next character analysis from the Mass Effect universe. Today, we're using my decade of screenwriting experience and countless hours spent on Mass Effect for this analysis. Without further ado, make sure you've got a tub of s'mores ice cream, preferably Ben & Jerry's, because this video will be a long one. The intro to Wrex in Mass Effect is similar to many of the other companions within this game. The Citadel section of the game is reminiscent of another BioWare game that I've played, Terrace. Well, the game is not called Terrace, it's Knights of the Republic, but the map is called Terrace. Terrace is an area in which you complete a string of quests, and along the way, pick up a majority of your party. Wrex is a rumored bounty hunter that is going after Fist, just like us. BioWare smartly made Wrex a Krogan, and it's very fitting for a bounty hunter. But also, being a Krogan plays into the theme of giving us different races for companions, so that we can get a perspective into the said races. Garrus is our perspective into the Turians, Tali is the perspective into the Quarians, and Wrex is our perspective into the Krogan. His intro portions showcase Wrex's core characteristics of blunt honesty, desire for violence, and that Krogan charm of antagonism mixed with a bit of camaraderie. He's the strongest in the room, and he knows it. Given his experience, when C-Sec tries to shake him down, he's probably been in these situations and seen them play out hundreds of times before, hence why he just kind of laughs off the threats. Wrex, in the power scale side of things, is arguably the second or third strongest squad mate available to Shepard through the entire game's trilogy. That's of course speaking strictly from lore. In Mass Effect 1, I would argue Wrex mechanically is the best companion from a gameplay perspective that you can get. So all of this arrogance he's showing is actually confidence. Now, his main reason for joining Shepard is for, as he says, fun. He wants to be where the action is. He does make a mention about his people once being proud and criticizes other Krogan for following Saren, however, which does give us that hint to him being a bit of a thinker, and giving us some insight that there is more to Wrex than just the meets the eye. A fun fact, by the way, you can actually never recruit Wrex, which will lead to him pursuing bounty hunting further and eventually dying, meaning his lame brother Reeve will replace him in Mass Effect 2 and 3. A question I'd have though is, in that timeline where you never recruit Wrex, who killed Wrex? If you take Wrex with you when you go to take down Fist, Wrex is actually going to kill Fist, and that will go against Shepard's orders, which we need to kind of talk about this for a moment. This is a foreshadow, no doubt, about how independent Wrex can be, or maybe how violent he can be. But I love the choice to give Wrex this agency so early on in the game. It also fits with his character since at this point, Wrex is still a merc, and he doesn't want to leave the job half-finished. The agency here is perfect, and like I said, it does foreshadow later on the confrontation we'll have with him in Virmire. With that, Wrex decides to hang around and follow Shepard for some more fun and chaos, thus leading him to officially join the Normandy and the mission against Saren. As far as an introduction goes, I think this works really well. We got to see some of Wrex's wits and humor, and we also got to see his violence and experience shine through. But the highlight for me, as I just mentioned, was him killing Fist against Shepard's orders. This creates an uneasy sense of tension and conflict, and like I explained, the foreshadowing is very much appreciated. Something you need to be careful about when creating a companion in a video game specifically, but this can also apply for characters in TV or films, is you don't want that character to feel static. In this case, Wrex certainly is not static. He has his own morals and viewpoints and goals, and he will act on them. So far, so good. The first conversation you have with Wrex, like Tally, lays the groundwork for a series-long conflict. This time around, it's about the genophage, a virus that every Krogan carries that severely impacts birth rates of Krogan. This was carried out by the Solarians and Turian races to prevent the Krogan from spreading too quickly following the war that they'd had with the Krogan. Wrex chooses to bring this point up as the very first thing he talks to Shepard about, and I tip my hat to BioWare here, and I'll explain why in a moment. In classic Mass Effect 1 fashion, Shepard and Wrex don't see eye to eye at first, where Shepard tries to liken the Krogan surviving the Turians' attempt to wipe their species out to humanity's own survival against the Turians. Wrex doesn't like this and presents his own point of view. No, it's not the same. In a very well-presented argument, Wrex compares the two problems. While humanity had to fight back with bullets and bombs against the Turians, for the Krogan, they have a genetic mutation that is causing their population difficulties in reproducing. There's not really a way to fight that. Wrex then pivots, saying that it's not solely the virus that impacts his people, but it's in conjunction with the culture of Krogans. They love to fight, and since reproducing is nigh impossible, they've leaned more into becoming mercenaries than fathers and mothers, which makes this reproduction an even larger issue. Wrex finishes off his argument by stating that Krogan aren't interested in becoming scientists. That's just something they don't do. Shepard realizes the error in their statement, understanding that Krogan culture was heavily shaped by this genophage that essentially gave Krogan very little option but to lean into what they already knew, which was fighting. I have to applaud BioWare here. Bounty hunters in space isn't really an area of fiction that is lacking in characters to pick from. It's pretty popular. It's also easy to trope your character into the badass bounty hunter archetype, which, make no mistake, Wrex is, but he's also much more than that. Look at Canderous Ordo from Knights of the Old Republic, another BioWare title and another badass bounty hunter. Like Wrex, Canderous in his old age had grown tired of mercenary work, and eventually it led to a quest of reuniting his scattered race called the Mandalorians. Extremely similar to Rex's own story, in fact, as we'll get into later. Canderous is a bit more flatly written in my eyes, and he is a typical, "Oh, you want another war story, Sonny? I'll tell you about the time I slaughtered a 3-headed dragon with nothing but my toenail in a cardboard box," which is great to hear, but it doesn't really give him much of an arc. Canderous does get a little bit of development, like I said, in the second title where he spent time helping his race. So that's good, but remember this example for just a moment as I deviate to another example to make my point. We can also look at Zaid from the very same series, who is also a renowned bounty hunter, and I'll be the first to say that I absolutely love Zaid. He is legitimately, in my opinion, one of the most wasted potential characters in Mass Effect next to Legion, but the reason I bring him up is because where Canderous is a basic evolution of the bounty hunter archetype, where he does lean into the characterization while getting a slightly small arc, Zaid is what happens if you max out that characterization but forego any real development. Zaid is just the most badass and extremely charismatic bastard in Mass Effect 2, but he also has no story in Mass Effect 2, and in Mass Effect 3, his story devolves into basically another bounty contract. It's for this reason that I'm never able to rank him highly amongst my favorites. His personality is fantastic, but there's not a lot of depth there. Now, back to Wrex. Sorry, that was a lot of rambling. The point of it all, though, was to draw your attention to just how great Wrex is handled, both with his characterization and his story. Both throughout all 3 games remain pretty strong, and that, as you've seen from just 2 examples, isn't the easiest thing to pull off. Setting the seeds early on of what truly bothers Wrex is smart. Subtextual with lines like, "I've already given up on my people long ago," implies that this troubles Wrex. He wishes he could do more. He's got the strength to topple anyone in the Milky Way, but he can't fix this problem. This presents a problem for Wrex that we can pick up on. Wrex wants to help his people. How? By doing something about the genophage. And that's very simple, but also well done. Establishing to the player who Wrex is. A badass Krogan bounty hunter. You also tell us what he wants. To help his people by fixing the genophage. It's not anything surreal or groundbreaking in terms of writing, but as far as the first conversation goes, the subversion of my own expectations is nice, and it gives us some meat to chew on until our next conversation. So, our next conversation we can have with Wrex is a bit more what you'd expect from a mercenary. A story of a past job, of course. But this is a bit different, isn't it? Wrex reveals to us that he has actually met Saren before, and of course, Shepard demands to know how and why. Wrex explains that on a previous job in the Terminus systems, way out on the edges of space, he'd been recruited to help raid ships and secure cargo. One such ship he raided with other mercs had nothing more than food and supplies on it, and that's when he saw Saren, simply walking and looking around. Rex's age-old instincts told him something was off, and he fled without even getting paid. A week later, every mercenary from that job showed up dead. Wow. Okay, let's unpack. This is, as I stated a moment ago, one of those bounty hunter stories we expect to hear from this kind of character, but in this instance, it puts Wrex in a unique position here as he reveals he'd actually met Saren before the events of the game, a unique claim that none of the team can make outside of Captain Anderson. Something that I'm going to add here with Wrex is how unique he is actually amongst the party in Mass Effect 1. Not only is Wrex the oldest character, but he's also got the most combat experience. This story gives us insight that Wrex is also a sharp mind, not just a brute. More subversion of expectations. But the real crux of the story, and thankfully, is that he met Saren. By this point in the game, when this dialogue becomes available, we are just starting out on our adventure to hunt down Saren, having Wrex, a certified badass, say that he had a bad feeling about Saren is great. Why? Just moments earlier, Wrex said that he loves to fight, and he's this Krogan that has hundreds of years of combat experience. For someone to make Wrex run without getting his money means that this someone must be pretty scary. This is a fantastic and very subtle way of building up your main villain, so great job, BioWare. Let's move on. This next conversation we can have with Wrex has us get as personal as we're able to get with him so far in the game. Wrex finally shares a bit more about Krogan culture, and unlike with Garrus or Tali, who also serve as their species lore dumps for this first game, Wrex mixes his storytelling and culture quite well, usually defining terms as they come up, so we have some context needed to know what he's talking about, which I appreciate. Also, the story he gives us here is an extremely personal one, rather than, here's some basic information about my race. Wrex is asked why he became a mercenary, and he'll reveal he left Tuchanka because of some unfinished family business. Like an open book when asked, Wrex reveals that he was actually trying to help his people, trying to get them to breed rather than fight. And he was making some segue when Jared, a powerful Krogan warlord, requested to meet with Wrex. Jared was the antithesis of ideologies that Wrex subscribed to. Jared wanted Krogan to simply fight. Each other races, both, it didn't matter. The meeting took place in a sacred ground where violence was not permitted, which for Krogan to have any place where violence is not allowed is pretty amazing. Well, when Jared couldn't convince Wrex to see things his way, you guessed it. Popping out from the graves of dead Krogan was Jared's men, who killed all of Rex's men. But Wrex, being the badass that he was able to stab Jared in the chest before fleeing. Oh, and did I mention that Jared was Rex's father? Man, this is some more good stuff. Wrex reveals that following this debacle, he fled to Tuchanka, and his family business that he left unfinished was a promise he'd made to his grandfather to retrieve an ancient familial battle armor from a Turian who was profiting off of selling Krogan relics. Leaving this promise unfulfilled bothered Wrex, who brings this up to Shepard, and this kickstarts Rex's loyalty mission. Okay, so I'm gonna give props to Wrex on how he tells his stories, as all of them are very well told, with some actual great timing on his pauses and withholding of certain information. For example, he withholds the fact that Jared is his father until halfway through, so that reveal comes as a bit of a surprise. However, I'm starting to feel a little bit of sag to Rex's arc and story. This first half portion is great, as it continues to reveal a bit on how Wrex has the foresight to see his species dwindling, before showing us how he planned on stopping their inevitable extinction. The betrayal from his father was also a nice touch, Now, this second half, however, feels a little tacked on and a little lost in the shuffle. If I remember correctly, this whole armor plotline doesn't really lead to anything. As Wrex explains, the armor is useless and it is far more symbolic, having been passed down 5 generations of his family. The issue I have is that this promise he makes to his grandfather to recover this armor seems a bit cheesy, but also disconnected from the story that he just shared. I feel like one extra line here from Wrex about how his grandfather perhaps saw that Wrex was right and mentions that he can't turn his back on his family, and despite Wrex leaving Tuchanka, Wrex is stuck on his grandfather's words, since technically, he did turn his back on his family. You could double this as not only did Wrex turn his back on his family, but he also turned his back on his people. This just gives a bit of more direction to this whole armor subplot, but also gives it some depth. It also builds a personal issue for Wrex and a sense of responsibility that stretches past just this promise. We also could have had this plotline tie a little closer into what Wrex eventually becomes, which is the leader of the Krogan race. Perhaps this armor is a symbolic one of his clan before the war, and we find out from Wrex that Clan Urdnot once held a lot of power, but fell from grace during the start of the Krogan Wars, eventually being left behind due to Clan Urdnot wanting a more peaceful approach. This whole armor plotline just feels random, and you'll soon see that it's pretty flat too. Unlike Garrus's loyalty mission with Saleon that helps shape who he becomes, or with Tally's that is a huge progression for her pilgrimage, this just feels like a generic side quest, and I personally think that BioWare could have done better. So getting to the actual loyalty mission, this entire mission devolves into an issue that Mass Effect 1 had in general, which was a very tedious quest pattern for its missions. Go to planet, explore planet, find warehouse, kill everything in warehouse, repeat. I think for me, what made this process at least worthwhile was the story behind the missions and finding out what happened. In this instance, however, for such a character like Wrex, the payoff of this quest sucks. Straight up. Regardless if you bring Wrex with you on this mission or not, he'll indeed find his family's armor and comment on how it's a piece of crap, and that hey, at least we got it back, and that's it. You get zero debrief from him regarding this, which, considering Tally and Garrus both get a debrief, makes me wonder why he didn't get one. I feel like BioWare needed a personal quest for all 3 of these characters, and they forgot to actually give Wrex one, and so this is what we got. It's a shame because up to this point, his writing was not too bad, and the whole "how do I help my people" was an interesting dilemma. That dilemma that Wrex was facing was fascinating because it meant something personal to him. This side quest, as stated before, feels random and is certainly taking away from the main story and far more interesting story for Wrex. Our 4th conversation with Wrex recenters us back to the dilemma that Wrex is facing, helping his people. But this conversation is kind of misplaced, no? Shepard approaches Wrex, asking him if he's ever thought about helping his people before, and Wrex expresses how much of a lost cause it would be, that being a merc is simpler and isn't so bad. He gets paid to travel and kill people. What more could someone want? He does express what I think is some sadness or perhaps remorse that half the contracts he seemingly gets are other Krogans, only contributing more to the issue of the Krogan population dwindling, but that's about it. Doesn't this conversation seem like it should have been the very first conversation we would be having with Wrex? Why is Shepard asking Wrex if he ever thought about helping his people? Shepard should know that Wrex has already tried. It feels like the better question would be, what would it take you to try helping your people again? Or why don't you try helping your people again? By this point in the game, we've been with Wrex for nearly half of the game, so the confusion here also stems from the lack of depth to these questions or conversations. I feel like it's here that a natural arc turning point for Wrex should be him considering his option of returning home, but lacking that stimuli to help him decide if he should or should not. Hint hint, that stimuli would be Vermeer, but we're not quite there yet. I don't know. This conversation is asking a relevant question, but it just feels like a repeat of Scene 1 and a little bit of Scene 3, with nothing new actually being added in. That's 2 bad scenes in a row for Wrex with regards to his writing and arc progression. Is it possible that we could see a three-peat? Remember earlier how I said you're bound to get some bounty hunter or merc stories from this character archetype? Well, boy oh boy do we finally get one, and does it deliver or not. And it's about time. 5 conversations in, which we finally get a fully unrelated merc story. I'm a bit surprised it took us this long to get here, but I'm not complaining. In this story, Wrex retells of a contract he'd had once from a politician who'd asked Wrex to kill Alina, an Asari commando merc who was a friend of Wrex's. Wrex spoke with Alina directly, allowing her to pick the place they'd fight, and he says he did this out of respect. He then tells of the 3-day battle aboard a pirate ship that the two of them utterly tore apart and killed nearly every pirate aboard in the process. The battle was fierce, but Wrex had cornered her, and right when he thought he'd get her, the ship reached a critical state, and Wrex was forced to flee, leaving Alina in a locked medical bay area. Wrex claims he'd never seen another ship leave and watched the station explode, leaving nothing behind larger than the size of a Krogan nut. Nice. As Wrex was going to collect his payment, he received a message. Better luck next time, it said. That message, of course, was from Alina. Great story. And again, wonderfully told by Wrex, as he adds in some of that Krogan language and rather odd analogies. Does this contribute anything to the overall story or arc of Wrex? No, it doesn't. But the writing here is really well done. It's become apparent to me by this point why Wrex was such a fan favorite. Stuff like this. His unique character expression, paired with his badass background and fantastic utility in this game, all combined together to make a character that is both cool and very unique, along with also being useful. For a video game, especially Mass Effect 1, where combat originally was rather clunky and certain characters got minimal arcs, Wrex appears to be the most well-rounded character that I've covered from this game thus far. The best part is, the best part of his story hasn't even come up yet. Let's get to that part now, shall we? When we arrive on Vermeer, we are hot on the tails of Saren. This is his base of operations, and we found it. All we have to do now is capture Saren and destroy his base, right? No, you Boshtek, it's never that simple. And thank goodness. We meet up with the Solarian badass Captain Kirihi, whose team has discovered that this facility, this base, is reproducing Krogan at an alarming rate. Wrex hears this and steps in, unable to believe on what he's just heard. Where Shepard, the Solarians, and the rest of our squad all concede that this base has to be destroyed, that these Krogan aren't self-thinking, but rather puppets of Saren's, Wrex sees a cure. He sees a path to helping his people. He sees a solution. And he is the only companion in this game that has a direct confrontation with Shepard, and it's over Wrex's biggest outer conflict, and at the same time, tying pretty well in with the game's main story. The setup is fantastic. Thankfully, we've done the legwork establishing what the genophage is, and the magnetism that Wrex feels to try and help his people with said genophage. This encounter is fantastic, and the branching pathways here are one of the reasons people love Mass Effect. Your choices directly impact Wrex's story and the Krogan. So, the first option is if you've got enough reputation. You can either Paragon or Renegade speech check Wrex to stand down and see reason. He'll remark that he is choosing to trust you, saying that Shepard has a valid point, that the Krogan were once tools, and these Krogan being born are no different. He vows to destroy the facility to help his people. The second option is actually available if you've got his family armor back, where he'll automatically see reason, stating that Shepard did more for him than his family ever did. I love this addition, and it adds some payoff to actually investing time into Wrex's story. However, if you didn't do either of these options, you'll be unable to convince Wrex to stand down, which will cause either Shepard or Ashley to gun him down, which will be permanent, and significantly alter the story of the Krogan struggle going forward. I love this addition. My word. Adding this conflict gives Wrex more agency than any other character in this game, as he doesn't blindly agree with Shepard, nor should he. Having Wrex stand up to destroying what he believes is a cure for his entire race is exactly the right call, and him making this stand should make sense to the player too. This is part of why this encounter is perfect, and gives the player this immersion into being a commander that does need to make hard calls. Yes, we know Wrex really wants to help his people, and by this point in the game, we spent a good chunk of time with our party. But we also have a mission to do. We need to stop Saren. Shepard can't afford to see the short term. They have to think of the largest threat, the Reapers. So, if needed, Shepard has to take down a friend here, and forcing the player into these difficult decisions is awesome. I give a lot of props to this section in the game for introducing real weight to your choices, but also allowing the dynamic of Wrex's personal goals to directly interfere with the group's overall objective. Again, making Wrex's stance understandable simply makes this choice even harder, and Wrex plays his role fantastically. And for me, this scene existing alone makes me pretty comfortable saying he's easily one of, if not the best written squad member in Mass Effect 1. Following a moment like this, assuming that Wrex survives, bonds the player to him more, since they had a pretty serious argument, and they made it out of a situation like this together. This moment is brought up also in later games too, and giving Shepard and Wrex this scene involves the player directly into what happens in the game. It's smart, it can be brutal, and it's really well done. We'll discuss more of how the game changes if Wrex dies here, but obviously for the video's sake, we're going to continue on as if Wrex was convinced to stand down, and therefore lived. You do get a small debrief scene where Wrex applauds Shepard for doing what they had to do before making sure Shepard knows they've got to make this sacrifice worth it by killing Saren. Nice. Following the debrief, Wrex doesn't really have much else that occurs in his story. Now, as always, he is fantastic to bring on every mission for his funny dialogue, of course, but his story arc ends here, in the game with the death of Saren. For Wrex, he does exude more loyalty to Shepard by the end of the game, clearly his respect being earned for the commander, which says a lot. Wrex also seemingly cared enough for his people to know that destroying the Krogan facility on Virmire was ultimately the right call, but I think a little hat off to what Wrex planned to do following the events on Virmire could have been nice. Perhaps Wrex knows Saren's way wasn't right, but he has found a new hope that a cure can exist, and if it can exist, then his people can be saved. We don't really get a hint of anything like that, and like I said, it would have been nice. Overall, a really well done companion. Of the 4 alien companions that we have, Wrex having that Virmire scene helps him a lot. His arc sort of stops halfway through the game, however, and with Wrex, he starts strong and ends strong, but the middle portion of his scenes are a little flat. Let's move on to Mass Effect 2 and continue to kick ass with our favorite Krogan. Oh, what's that? He's not really in Mass Effect 2. What? But what about the Krogan? I remember there being a Krogan. Yeah, that's Grunt, different Krogan. Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, so just like the other half of your party, most of your OG squad mates are out of the picture in this one, and that unfortunately includes Wrex. Wrex can be found on Tuchanka, and can be entirely missed since the only reason one would go to Tuchanka is to do the loyalty missions of Mordin and or Grunt, which, since loyalty missions are not required, means you can go the entire game without encountering Wrex. Crazy. But what normal person would do this? Not me, I say, so in we go. Arriving on Tuchanka, we are allowed to land, and the expectations before we see Wrex might be that he's back on Tuchanka, perhaps trying to kick up a new order of Krogan. I know when I first played Mass Effect 2, that's exactly what I thought, and I was pleasantly surprised to see Wrex sitting on the throne, and he's found actually a lot of success. Wrex has become a warlord, akin to someone like Yuan Shao, the noble tactician with a royal family name from the Three Kingdoms, except unlike the doting Yuan Shao, Wrex is taking action to unite the clans and introduces new reforms, namely a neutral female breeding ground. A lot of Krogan are liking this idea of protecting fertile females, and are getting on board with Wrex's way of thinking. Of course, he does have some opposition. The way he greets Shepard is also really sweet. He laughs and calls Shepard my friend, before embracing Shepard. Just like that, we're back with our Mass Effect bro. Now, interestingly in our conversation with Wrex, it's revealed that he actually left before the Normandy was attacked, and he cites that what the team did on Virmire gave Wrex a lot of street cred with the Krogans back on Tuchanka. When he started talking, people started listening. I found that very interesting, as I'd always assumed he was with us when the Normandy went down and then left. Him leaving before, I think, is accurate to his character's desire to see the job through to the end, but also his desire to help his people, which has been a concept he's been floating around since the first game. It's for the same reason that Wrex refusing to go with Shepard makes me smile. Again, great agency for Wrex, and once more, really well done characterization for him. He's finally making progress and making a change, so why would he want to leave? I mean, yeah, it sucks for the player, but this is good writing. I think Wrex also comes off extremely wise here, and we see more of that tactician here as well. Wrex considers Shepard a friend, but he also can see the bigger picture. He's helping the Krogan by being here. That's a little character growth from perhaps the Wrex of old from Virmire. Shepard showed Wrex the idea of big picture thinking, which I'd argue he already had to some extent. Anyway, I thought it was very noble of Wrex to refuse Shepard. Now to the reason Shepard arrives to Tuchanka. Of course, we can ask Wrex about Morden's loyalty mission, and he won't say much other than basically pointing us to the direction of someone who will know where we can find Malin. It's worth noting that Wrex does say he was aware of Malin's research, but refused Malin after he learned of how Malin wanted to collect that data. Again, some of that big picture thinking. I've already spoken at length in my Morden analysis about how seeing how desperate Krogan are to be cured of this virus and how brutal dying in birth can be was amazing to see, and helped bridge the gap of what Wrex told us about the genophage from the first game. But I'll say it again here. Morden's mission does help us understand Wrex a bit better. We see why he was so desperate to help his people. For Grunt, we can ask Wrex what's wrong with him, and he essentially tells us that Grunt is hitting puberty, but because he's a tank bred, he has no clan, and thus no purpose. Wrex, despite killing thousands of tank-bred Krogan on Virmire, allows Grunt to take the rite of passage, solely because Grunt is with Shepard, and Wrex trusts Shepard. Again, a really nice touch here of the relationship between the two, and it shows the loyalty and love that Wrex has for Shepard. Character actions are, as always, a good way of showing intentions. And the Rite of Passage is a super cool mission that has us fight a Thresher Maw on foot. If we defeat the Thresher Maw, Wrex will even reveal to us that he was the last Krogan to accomplish that feat, which again lends credence to the idea that Wrex is literally one of Shepard's strongest companions, because that is a crazy feat to boast about. But after this, that's all we get from Wrex in Mass Effect 2. Unlike Garrus or Tali, he doesn't join the Normandy. Unlike Liara, he didn't get a DLC. He, like the Virmire survivor, appears for 20 minutes tops, and that is a travesty. Oh yeah, I did forget to cover what happens if Wrex isn't here. Well, his brother Reeve takes over. Reeve sucks. He's a big mean Krogan who is a traditionalist and thinks the best way for Krogan to live is to die fighting. Yeah, okay, moving on. So, as brief as a time Wrex has in Mass Effect 2, we get some major development for his character, as we see he's abandoned merc work to fully commit to helping his people. He has become a leader amongst many and is currently trying to vie for ultimate influence over his race so that they can finally rebuild and escape the genophage. Wrex has transitioned to more of the side of himself that utilizes that age-old wisdom. We also see how much Wrex respects Shepard and how much he values loyalty and courage. For the brief time that he is on screen, Wrex gives us some massive bro energy once more. And as I stated a moment ago, it's a shame he didn't get anything more. But this does set the stage for his appearance in Mass Effect 3. While I do think it could have been cool to have Wrex possibly appear in Morden's loyalty mission and see Malin's research for himself, that could have given us perhaps a more somber and emotional Wrex. Overall, this entry is good for the most part, but it does feel slightly underbuilt, since my earlier critique of Mass Effect 1 didn't give us really any hint of this being the next path for Wrex. Oh well, guess we'll move into Mass Effect 3. Into Mass Effect 3 we go, and this game has some of the largest space conflicts that really erupt this game to a whole new level. At the center, in the first portion of Mass Effect 3, is getting Krogan support to help Palaven, the homeworld of the Turians, so that Earth can get Turian support in retaking it. Space politics. It's awesome. What is deemed an impossible task, we host a meeting with all 3 species representatives, and as we enter, we overhear a familiar Krogan arguing with the Salarian Dalatras. And of course, that Krogan is Wrex. The two were arguing about the genophage being the crux of Wrex's demands for negotiations, essentially saying that the Krogan have been used and abused for far too long, and he demands that his people are cured before they get used again. The Dalatras, of course, is against this, citing this incident being born of desperation, just like when the Salarians used the Krogans, and she pleads with Shepard not to do this. Shepard stands with Wrex, however, and it's revealed that despite the protest, that a cure would take too long. Thanks to Malin's research and a secret Salarian base, however, that is also holding fertile Krogan females, Wrex reveals that cure might not be so far away. This is partly why I felt Wrex should have been present at the loyalty mission for Morden, but oh well, it gets tied in here. Anyway, the Dalatras is left with no option but to reveal the location of the base, and this kicks off a mission to go and retake the fertile females and kickstart the process of developing a cure for the genophage. As far as intros go, this isn't too bad. I feel that with each game, Wrex's intros get less and less violent. Hell, in this scene, he doesn't even hit anybody. He is truly showing his shrewd diplomatic stance and standing for his people, not letting others use his people anymore, while at the same time not being so stubborn to deny Krogan support for the galaxy, despite that surely meaning thousands of Krogan would no doubt die. It's really good stuff, and it's a pretty natural progression for Wrex from when we found him in Mass Effect 2. It seems in the 6 months since, he's clearly now the lead spokesperson for the Krogan, and his mission to unite the clans must have succeeded. But we have no time to chat, as we leave immediately to Surkesh to pick up the secret Krogan females. While on board the transfer shuttle, we finally get to speak to Wrex, who reiterates that these females are the last hope for his people. Interestingly, if you destroy Malin's data, Wrex will call you out for this, demanding to know which side you're on. If you kept the data, he's more cheery. More on this later. Having Liara and Garrus for this mission is also perfect, since all 3 Mass Effect 1 companions reunite, and BioWare did not skimp out on the chemistry lines being added in here. The Salarians seemingly have no idea why a vessel is landing at their secret base, and so they point their guns at us. Wrex answers this by leaping out of the ship and pointing his gun at them. A diplomatic incident is avoided as the Dalatras' message arrives right in time. Not really a fan of this forced conflict personally, but we'll cover this big scene, I promise. Wrex is also told that he has to stand down and let Shepard be the one to go down to the Krogan facility to retrieve the females. Okay, not a fan of this either, but let's just keep going. We then get a chance to speak with Wrex, finally. This is our chance to catch up with him since we last saw him on Tuchanka at least 6 months ago. Again, if you chose to destroy Malin's data, Wrex is pissed with you, continually ridiculing the choice, and hoping you two can become friends once again. He refuses to tell you anything about his inside source. As for Tuchanka, all we can really ask is if Reapers really have landed on Tuchanka, to which Wrex confirms. Yes, they have. We can ask about the females, and Wrex will reveal that they used to not be fertile until Malin changed that, hence why we're here now. The highlight, and really only good writing here, is Rex's interactions with Garrus and Liara, which, as I've said before, Mass Effect 3 really nailed squad-mate chemistry and fun interactions. See the Citadel DLC for more proof of that. Let's dissect this first half of Surkesh, because I'm a little confused, I suppose. Things actually started out pretty good for Wrex, as aboard the Normandy, we saw him as a tough diplomat, standing for his people. But I think when we get aboard the ship, I am confused why Shepard possibly destroying the data wasn't given a bit more emphasis. Wrex is upset with Shepard for destroying that data since it held the possible cure for the genophage. A possible reason Shepard destroyed this data is due to the nature of how it was obtained. Remember, Wrex was given this same chance by Malin to get this research, and he turned Malin down because of how Malin wanted to conduct the research. Of course, in Mass Effect 2, you can also pick the option that destroys the data because it's too dangerous, but why couldn't we get a similar confrontation like on Vermeer, where Shepard, perhaps in hindsight, made the wrong call, but made the call at the time for empathetic reasons? And this could be where Wrex, in his wisdom, can belittle us and question the choice, but also give Shepard the wake-up call that in this war, they'll have to make hard calls that will hurt people. I mean, it's early enough in the game that stating the theme of Mass Effect 3 like that would be pretty perfect. It's a game where you make choices after all. As we continue on to Surkesh, my main problem here is buying the idea that the message just got to the secret base. I mean, how is that even possible? The Normandy had to travel to Surkesh, and to me, if an Alliance ship was flying down to this secret base, wouldn't they shoot it down? It seems to me like this was put into place to give Wrex something to do, which leads to him jumping down and threatening the entire base. The problem I have with this is that, would Wrex really do this? Yes, he's a Krogan, but he's also shown caution, wisdom, and the ability to think long-term and show restraint. I would have found it more interesting if Wrex had to navigate this political structure through more diplomacy and withholding his anger, because, as he himself states, these females are the Krogan's possible last chance. So I wasn't a fan of this choice either. Lastly, when speaking to Wrex here, while I praise the chemistry he has with Liara and Garrus, I found the rest of this conversation to be a little mundane and filled with a lot of filler. I don't agree that having Wrex sit and let Shepard go down there was the right call either. Wrex should have been able to accompany us, to see the dead females, to see the risk they underwent. Just like when I said he should have been able to see what Malin did to his people in Mass Effect 2, perhaps since he didn't get to do that in that second game, why not have him see it here? Wrex should not be on the sidelines for a story that heavily involves him. And to the conversation you can have with him, if you destroy Malin's data, Wrex continues to question Shepard and their friendship, and even questions if keeping the base on Virmire was possibly the better move. What? Wrex wouldn't question this, right? Sure, in Mass Effect 1, he thought maybe that facility was a good idea, but it's pretty clear that he was upset. The guy had a gun pointed at us. But here, over 2.5 years later in-game, I'm not buying that he'd look back at that and think he made the wrong call. Wrex knows that was the right decision to make, and he's now the leader of his entire race. He's shown wisdom before. And if you want to spin this scene as Wrex being blinded by anger, then let us argue with him again, not dabble around the subject like two exes meeting after not seeing each other for a while. And remember, in Mass Effect 2, he knew that we were with Cerberus, a really shadowy organization, and he didn't care at all. He hugged us. Overall, I'm not a fan of Wrex's portrayal so far. It doesn't seem in line with his character. While I think the overall plot here is developing really well, I think the micro-writing of the key player here of Wrex is taking some enjoyment away from me personally. Let's review the second portion of this mission now. The remainder of the mission involves us meeting Eve, who I'll speak a bit more about later on, but she's awesome. Pretty much the antithesis to every Krogan we've met thus far. We have a huge combat section that follows where we fight off the entirety of Cerberus, while Wrex just flies around. You know, if we never got the DLC that literally allowed Wrex to be a squad mate with us, maybe I'd be a bit easier on BioWare here. But rush timeline or not, why is Wrex not down here fighting for his people? If everything I said before about this portrayal of Wrex's character not fitting with the writing could be viewed as me being harsh, surely no one can disagree that the Wrex we know and the Wrex that's been established would not be flying around in a hover car. So unfortunately, he's essentially a side piece in this story up until the end where he greets Eve, who grabs his shotgun and guns down some Cerberus troops. It's a funny moment, but overall, this scene's kind of a waste for Wrex. Let's move on. Back on the Normandy, we get more politics here, as Primarch Victus is rushing to get Krogan support to Palaven. But Wrex reminds him that the deal was that a cure was provided to the Krogan, and without that, there will be no boots on the ground until that's finished. Regardless if Mordin survived or not, a cure will begin being synthesized from Eve, and if you kept Malin's data, that will be used too. Wrex has to remain on board because the cure requires DNA from a male Krogan as well. Lastly, as if Shepard was talking to two kids, both Victus and Wrex have things to discuss with Shepard, but don't want to share whatever it is in front of each other, stoking the bitter rivalry between the two races even more. Coming back to this scene, I think we've got to return to the galactic politics that makes this portion of the story so good. Realistically, Turians and Krogans hate each other as much as Krogans hate Solarians, so stressing that blood hatred here is great. It makes the situation seem untenable for Shepard, and really highlights how large of a task this truly is. Uniting the galaxy is hard, and that's because thousands of years of bad blood exist in between. I think personally, the only thing that could have helped this scene is perhaps a hint more information on the Turian v Krogan war, but I don't mind the small omission here. The 1-2 between Wrex and Victus, however, is comedic, as Wrex gives some of that Krogan sass. It's a good scene. Moving on. So, Wrex is officially back on the Normandy, as he stations himself down at Morden's orders. We finally get the chance to actually talk to him about, well, a lot. The main thing we glean from him is two things. First off, we can ask Wrex what his plan is once the genophage is cured. He'll cite that it's time for his people to rebuild, that things will be different this time, that violence and war only brought misery and suffering for his people. He doesn't want revenge, knowing that if the Krogan act out again, something worse will no doubt be invented to put them down. Wrex also gives us insight into Krogan female culture, citing that while males are more alpha bros that prefer to fight things out, the Krogan females are more into discussion, ideas, and listening. It's an interesting insight that the Krogan males and females are so different, but it's a welcome difference. Wrex also gives us a top-secret mission, revealing that some of his scouts went towards the Mu relay, the same relay from Mass Effect 1 that got mentioned where the Rachni erupted from. He tells us that his scouts went quiet and fears that the Rachni could be coming back. Arlac Company, his best squad, awaits Shepard's call to go to the planet and investigate together. Through it all, Wrex cracks jokes about how good it feels to be back, and how he likes the modifications of the new Normandy, admitting that he did miss the ship. He even makes a sly remark about not having a window like Liara, but assuming the reason for that is that he doesn't kiss as good as her. This comment of course only is made if you romance Liara. Overall, this is the best scene we've had with Wrex, as it hits on his entire character personality quite well, and does an excellent job showing us the actual character growth he's undergone. From Mass Effect 2, we saw wisdom and leadership emerging for Wrex. Here, we see those skills sharpened. Wrex is now coordinating missions in important areas like the Mu relay. He's privy to the possible threat that returning Rachni could cause. He's also wise enough to understand why staying on the ship is important. Also, the choice to include Wrex's future plans showing restraint and the need to rebuild is great. Of course, Wrex has always shown some restraint or trusting his gut feeling, if you remember his story he told us about Saren, but this is an evolution of that. Wrex always discussed wanting to help his people, but not really knowing how. He had the ambition, but perhaps not the vision on how to execute it. Here, he now has that ambition still, but his vision to execute the plan of pulling back on the fighting is great. Oh, and I suppose we should talk about what happens if Wrex died on Virmire. Yeah, Reeve is here. Reeve still sucks. He wants more death, more fighting, more revenge, more war. Yeah, okay, moving on. As the plot continues, we make our way down to check on Eve, and Wrex comes along. Morden is running tests on Eve, and Wrex shows some concern that despite Morden being his inside source, he still doesn't trust Morden fully, a fear probably stemming from years of trickery and lies from Solarians towards Krogan, no doubt. He allows Morden to work, however, after Morden defends his reasons for helping Eve, promising Wrex he'll keep her safe. And overall, for a short scene, we do get a bit of development again for Wrex in the manner in which he shows care for Eve, but also, touching on a larger point, the Wrex v Morden concept is something that represents Krogan v Solarian. It will take decades to probably put the bad taste out of the Krogans' mouths and allow them to trust Solarians again, but as it's shown here with two individuals, these are the first steps. A part of why I love this, and also the Geth v Quarian conflict in Mass Effect 3, is you can feel the weight of what's happening in the galaxy as you progress these quests. You are helping cure years of trauma, bad blood, and mistrust across species, and something that BioWare does well here is showing how that drama plays out on a microscopic level, with one Krogan and one Solarian. They stick to the development of Wrex too by, yes, giving him that gruff edge to sort of try and intimidate Morden, but also show his foresight on the entire ordeal and ability to swallow his pride. His care of Eve also gives a soft side to Wrex that we'd yet to really see from him, which is very nice. It's also worth noting that when we speak to Eve, she'll agree that Wrex is the best thing to have happened to the Krogan, pointing out how much of an anomaly he is amongst male Krogan. Where they love to seek revenge and violence, Wrex has some female Krogan characteristics, I'd say. I say that because he has an ability to seek another approach and to actually try and discuss problems. Very cool. Let's move on. As the plot continues, we do check out the coordinates Wrex gave us, but since Wrex isn't a part of that mission, the TLDR here is that we meet up with Grunt, kill some fake Reaper Rachni babies, and then either make a deal with the real Rachni Queen that we spared in Mass Effect 1, or kill her. We also can go to Tuchanka and defuse a bomb that was secretly planted there. Wrex isn't a part of that either, so TLDR, big hidden bomb on Tuchanka. Krogan didn't know big bomb there, hence why the word secret. We go defuse bomb, don't tell Wrex, but Wrex find out. Wrex mad. Victus' son died to stop the bomb. They argue. Shepard say, hey, stop arguing, we team, we fight Reapers, everyone agree. Mazel tov, time to stop genophage now. Before we depart for Tuchanka, we get a call from, you guessed it, dun-dun-dun-dun, the Dalatras. That call sure came pretty quickly, Dalatras. Strange how you couldn't make that call earlier. The Slimeball wants us to lie to Wrex and purposefully sabotage the Shroud, the large tower that will distribute the cure. This development is certainly interesting, and I am glad it exists. We'll cover what happens if you choose to do this, if Wrex is alive. We next fly down to Tuchanka, where Wrex and the team are ready to descend. We can choose to tell Eve about the possible sabotage, but we'll be interrupted by a rocking of the ship. It's the Reapers attacking the ship, and our meeting place with the rest of the clans, the Hollows, which I'm pretty sure is the same place Wrex was betrayed by his father, which is an extremely symbolic callback. Wrex, however many years ago, tried to unite his people and was betrayed and forced out. Now he returns once more, trying to rebuild his people's unity once more. Very nice. After clearing out the Hollows of the Reaper threat, Wrex meets with the other clans who are pissed to see a Solarian. Reeve, we all know Reeve, the guy that sucks. Yeah, he exists in this timeline if Wrex lives, and he's the voice of opposition to what Wrex is trying to do. Things get heated, and in a very cool moment, Wrex says that he trusts Mordin, but it's not enough. Guns get pooled, and a fight is about to break out. In a moment where history is about to repeat itself, which, need I point out the callback to Rex's story with his father here, this is some great stuff. The difference this time is Eve, who steps in and uses her words to convince the clans to agree to building a better future for the future kids of the Krogan race. Yeah, this scene is just freaking cool. The Krogans grunting in frustration, the fate of an entire race hanging on one argument, it's awesome. And the development of Wrex trusting a Solarian should not need to be stressed. As we travel towards the Shroud, we get the chance to speak with the team about the sabotage of the Shroud. Telling Wrex and Eve will officially return Rex's respect to Shepard if they destroyed Malin's data, and of course, will prevent you from even attempting the Shroud sabotage. And of course, not telling him means, well, we'll get to that. Anyway, Wrex has some comedy here when he says that Krogan have a lot of time to make up for, which made me chuckle. Wrex sure has come a long way from Mass Effect 1, huh? We get a small section where we get to go through ancient Krogan ruins. It's cool. The only real story development here is Reeve dies. This also made me chuckle. We reach the final stage of Tuchanka, and Eve suggests that in order to defeat the Reaper that is blocking the path to the Shroud, that we should summon Kalros, the mother of all Thresher Maws. Wrex is for this plan, and we all agree. This will give the team the best chance to get to the Shroud and finally cure the genophage. Before we depart, Wrex will give you a few parting words that change depending on if you've destroyed Malin's data, took Rex's side in arguments, completed his side mission, and found his armor all the way back in Mass Effect 1, with his maximum approval prompting you to be called either his brother or his sister, as he declares the word Shepard to stand for the word hero, here on out in the Krogan language. Again, it's a great moment showcasing this mutual respect between Wrex and Shepard. It's comparable to the relationship that Shepard and Garrus have, in that they're old war buddies, but Shepard's misunderstanding of the Krogan genophage plight to now being a key figure in fighting for the Krogan cure is super cool. Shepard and Wrex are bonded by this, and while I think it's hard for Wrex since he's just a companion in Mass Effect 1 and not in Mass Effect 2 or 3, it's clear that the role he's in was the better call.
Now for the finale. So, we defeat the Reaper, indeed using the Thresher Maw, and we make it to the Shroud. This situation has a lot of variables, and is one of those good examples of your choices matter in Mass Effect. You can either approach the scene with Eve dying to the procedure or living, have either Mordin or Paddock Wilkes be the scientist in charge, have either Wrex or Reeve be the leader of the Krogan, and choose to cure the genophage. Okay, so reviewing this won't be as hard as you may think. I won't cover Reeve's scenarios since he is in Wrex, so we can eliminate those. Let's start with Eve dead, which does have some variation, but the big picture here is that a funeral is held for her after we cure the genophage. At that funeral, her body is burned in a Krogan tradition. She died giving her life for the Krogan, and is aptly named Mother of Krogan. Without her, Wrex still commits to shaping his people to be more like Eve, as he says himself that the way Eve was is the way he hopes all Krogan can become. It's hypothetical if Wrex, without her, can actually succeed in his mission. I think if the scene in the Hollows is anything to go off of, then no. Rebellion will occur, and perhaps after those rebellions are squashed, then maybe the Krogan can finally unite. Still, I think it's a better future for the Krogan, and Wrex will pay his respects to the Salarian that gave his life to save his race, admitting that perhaps he was too harsh, which is a really nice sign of character growth. Then we have what I'd consider is the most Paragon outcome for the Krogan people, where Wrex is alive and Eve survives, and the genophage goes off without sabotage, and Mordin is the one who dies. In this scene, both Wrex and Eve lament the death of Mordin, and Wrex continues that idea that he was wrong about Mordin, even admitting that he wished Mordin had survived, so that he could tell Mordin how wrong he was. Wrex says he'll name one of his daughters after Mordin, which is a great and very underrated line. The remainder of the scene plays out mostly the same, with Wrex thanking you for all you've done for him and his people, as he commits to sending Krogan to Palaven now, and commits to helping you get Earth back when it's time. I feel this is a fantastic end to the genophage plotline, and it really does complete Wrex's arc too. I love the fact that it took Wrex being willing to work with a Salarian to overcome such a problem. It's a classic writing tool that I love to see. Wrex's inner problem was overcoming that mistrust for all Salarians. It also shows his growth to swallow his pride for the betterment of his people. Meanwhile, that outer conflict that developed in Mass Effect 1 seeds itself through here, as Wrex has helped his people finally. I also love the fact that this doesn't mean it's the end of the Krogan plight. This is just the start. This story ending is great, and in my headcanon, this is what I deem canon. But there is another secret ending you can get that I absolutely love that BioWare put in. If you choose to sabotage the Shroud, and Wrex is alive, you will be confronted by Wrex at the Citadel. He knows what you did. He will confront you for sabotaging the cure, and will cite you possibly destroying Malin's data, and ask where Ashley is to do Shepard's dirty work, before remembering that Shepard killed her too. And he'll even cite Vermeer as well. You utterly betrayed Wrex here, meaning you've now got to kill him, and this leads to the Krogan support being pulled. Dude, wow. I love this scene. I've never personally got this scene in a playthrough because how could I do this to Wrex, but I think adding this scene was so good by BioWare. The whole thing with Mass Effect is that your choices have meaning, and this scene is proof of that. And I love that because I can see how a player might come to this conclusion. You need all the help you can get for the war, so why not lie a bit to get Krogan and Salarian support? Wrong. And having to kill a friend isn't easy, of course, either, but I love the agency from Wrex here. I mean, geez, man, no character had something like this other than the Vermeer survivor, and I love it. I love when Shepard's team stands up for their beliefs. This scene is fantastic. Let's wrap up Wrex's story, shall we? As with every squadmate I've covered so far, I won't be covering the Citadel DLC, but I will mention that Wrex does become a companion in this DLC, which thank God. He's fantastic in the whole thing, as is most of the squadmates. But let's get to the actual last scene for Wrex, which has us retaking Earth. We find Wrex giving a pre-battle speech to his men, and notably says that the Krogan will be joining the galaxy as allies in this victory. His speech is a mix of racial pride for being Krogan, but he also layers it in with the idea that this is going to be a better future. And strangely, when you talk to Wrex, you don't get a cutscene with him, but rather him sharing things like Eve being pregnant, and that he's willing to share Tuchanka since Earth is looking pretty bad. He goes on how Shepard has pulled off the impossible, and that's it. Wait, what? Tali, the Vermeer survivor, Liara, Garrus, Samara, Jack, Grunt, and etc. squad mates all got a dialogue and a scene with Shepard. Why would you not give Wrex a scene? This is an ultimate fumble, BioWare, and Wrex's final possible bro moment being left out here means that his story ends in a fizzle. Couldn't they have given Wrex and Shepard a moment where they reminisce on how they'd first met, or how Wrex makes a blood vow to Shepard that he will fight to his death to save humanity because he hopes all humans will have a kind heart like Shepard? Perhaps this is the moment that Wrex can get emotional for the only time in this story, saying that he once believed that his father was right, that Wrex couldn't change the Krogan race, but thanks to Shepard for instilling the confidence, he's now able to change his race, as he thanks Shepard for giving him that confidence back. But we get nothing. Big thumbs down here, BioWare. And I guess that's it. Let's review Wrex's overall story. Overall, across all 3 games, Wrex is a mixed bag. His story's pretty simple and limited due to him only being a companion in the first game, extremely limited in the second, and then, at times, having some off-character writing and not being a companion once again in the third game. All of that being said, his writing is overall still pretty strong, offering humor, tension, and bringing agency despite not being a companion for 2/3 of the game. He creates some conflict in Mass Effect 1 and 3, and that benefits the story. His logic, while being tied to the pride for his people, does make sense both instances of his anger erupting. He is likable and at the worst of times is a great antagonist for Shepard. Even mechanically, Wrex remains one of the strongest companions you can have in your squad across the entire trilogy. I remember fondly searching the planets in Mass Effect 1 with him in my squad. I remember being overjoyed when I found him again, and a big smile across my face when he called Shepard his friend when he saw us again in Mass Effect 2. And I found it awesome helping the Krogan race overcome the genophage, and Wrex was a worthy symbol of his people. He has strong writing, and is one of the best companions this game has to offer, despite the inconsistencies at times. One could wonder what would have happened if Wrex was chosen to be a companion across all 3 games, like Garrus or Tali. How different his story could have been. I wish we got a more serious conversation between Shepard and him, but overall, Wrex, you're a bro. And with that, folks, another Mass Effect character analysis is down. Thank you all for voting for Wrex to be our next analysis. You can of course now go and vote for the next character that you'd like to see for my next Mass Effect analysis over on my community page. This video was a fun one to make, truly. I do love doing analysis videos. A quick update for everybody. As I've stated before, July will continue to be an extremely busy month for me, and after this video, I'll be releasing the Emperor analysis, and yes, the Karlach video, which, my god, is that video taking me forever or what? Sorry guys, I'm trying. Alright, I'm off to go and rest my eyes. I have been pushing very hard, and I just want to remind everyone to make sure that you're getting enough rest and sleep. I love what this channel has provided me. Thank you all very much for your support, and until I see you next, be well, be healthy, and until next time, goodbye.